Hopefully
clarify that.
it'll be really simple as we start to use it. But starting out, not so simple. The tool that we've been using to track our progress was not made with book authors in mind. And so far, that hasn't really been an issue at all because we haven't had much actual book content that we've been doing. But now we're moving into the phase where we're trying to put plot stuff down, insert some scenes, and it's been getting a little weird with the way that we've been using this tool so far. So we've made some changes, or you've made some changes to make that easier going forward. But first, how have we been using this so far, and what is this tool? What is Confluence?
Yeah, so Confluence, it's a tool that I was used to from the software engineering world. It is a documentation tool. It's for writers, but not for book writers. When it came time to think about how were we going to collaborate on a book, my first thought was to look for tools that were designed for book writers. I looked at Scrivener, I looked at Atticus. Those are some of the two really key ones. And while they were really good at Scrivener, focusing on here's how to break your story into pieces so that you can reorganize them and keep track of your characters and find your plot holes. Then there's Atticus that's really designed well for let's make your book beautiful when it's all done. But both of them had an issue in that they were not designed for collaboration, where one of us would work on this piece and somebody else would work on another, and trying to coordinate two different people writing content on the same book. But Confluence excels at collaborative development, even if it doesn't excel at some of the things that Scrivener and Atticus do. So what I've been working on is to take some of the things that I really liked from Scrivener and teach Confluence how to do those things. Before we go into what I have changed there, I'd like to let Nathan first give just a high-level look at how we have been using Confluence so far.
One of the things that we've used Confluence for is our basic meeting agenda. So that should be popping up on your screen at some point. And one of the things that Confluence is really good at, as opposed to using something like that's used for collaboration, something like Google Drive where you have shared files, is the way that you can link to things and the way things can be organized really well. So on our basic meeting agenda page here, we have our recent updates off to the side, and this has all of the things listed in reverse order, all the changes that have been made since the last time that we had our meeting. So we can easily look and see what we need to discuss, what has happened recently, and what we might want to talk about and get on the same page about. Also, at the bottom, we have our discussion points. And these are things that we want to make sure that we talk about in our meeting. And if we want to add discussion points, we can go to our discussion topics page, add a checkbox there, and it automatically appears in our meeting agenda. And then once we're done with it, we can check the box to say we've finished discussing that. And then the next time we come back to the page, or if we refresh it, then those discussion points are not going to be there because we have already taken care of those. So that is an idea of how we have been using Confluence so far, but we're changing things, and I don't know all the details yet, but I'm going to find out with you all.
I've given just some high levels, but I figured it might be interesting for you to observe as I am sharing with Nathan some of this new configuration, this new setup. And it is that dynamic content that he was sharing with you, that when you create a checkbox in one page, it automatically shows the unchecked boxes in another page, or it automatically goes and searches for things that have changed recently. Those are the kinds of automatic dynamic content that really makes this useful for collaborating on a story. So I'll show you just the structure here. If we move into the other space, this is the structure that we have for Nathan's work in progress. We still don't have a title for it, so we're calling it Nathan's work in progress. You can see our content organized. We've got our brainstorm area, our manuscript, the characters, and the subplots, and then an archive, a bunch of other stuff that we've done before. And I want to talk about the manuscript part last. Brainstorm is just where Brainstorm is where, so far, when we talk about, we came up with 5 sticky notes or 5 bullet points. We've just been dumping them in this giant, ever-growing list. Might as well just show you what that looks like. Here is the plot page, and it has our diagram at the top. And then we wrote up some brainstorm ideas. The point here isn't to talk about the details. This is not a spoiler episode. But even after that, then it was comment after comment. You can see 52 comments starting in April 24. So we just keep adding our bullet points, more and more ideas. You can see the scroll bar not moving very far. This became very difficult. And in our conversations, we've identified we need a better way to organize our stuff. So the better way to organize our stuff now is in the manuscript, the characters, and subplots. I'd like to start with the characters. So we just have a different page for, so far we only have 4 of our characters written, just starting to organize things here. And then subplots. These are different threads of the story that we are going to want to keep track of to make sure that we complete the story, that we're telling them in the right order. But a key here is that if you look at one of the character pages, you can see there's an overview, a place for a AI generated photo, the prompt that we used to generate it. Then we have questions to answer to help us make sure that this is a compelling character who is growing over the course of the story. Then presentation, how do they show up, both physically and in their behavior, so that we can be consistent in how we present them. Then we have a whole bunch of questions that many of them we're probably not going to answer for every character, but when it comes to needing to figure out more about how would this person behave in a particular scenario, these are good questions to help prompt our thinking. Then if we look at a subplot, we can see we've got a placeholder. Each subplot has the various elements of good storytelling as a placeholder. Add placeholder text, that's our name. And what was interesting, as I was creating these templates, haven't even talked about templates yet, we'll get to that. As I was creating them, when we create a place to hold new stuff, Confluence asks you, it prompts you, add placeholder text. It's like, oh, that's what we called ourselves. Anyway, so this is what we want to keep track of about a subplot. Each of these areas, then we can describe, maybe it would be better to show where we started. So here's one that I've actually started filling out. The exposition, some things about the inciting incident, what characters are impacted. In the rising action, here's one of our scenes that contributes to the rising action of this subplot. With that mention of scenes, now we can go and look at the manuscript. This is where the actual text of our novel is going to live. And so we believe our first book is going to, we believe this novel is going to have 5 parts. So we've broken it out, a prologue, an epilogue, 5 parts. Each part has a chapter. Then every chapter is composed of scenes. Every scene then has a specific point of view character, supporting characters, and the subplot that it's related to. It has a purpose, and then it has some things related to, it's a time travel novel, so things that we're keeping track of for ourselves. And each of these is a link. I can click here and get to Arnold or Vanessa. And here's a scene that belongs in part 1, but we don't know where. So we just stuck it in the parking lot. But on the right-hand side is the full text of this scene. And if you watched our spoiler videos, you'd be familiar with this text. But it tells us how many words, which is something that authors like to keep track of. We have a summary, talked about point of view characters, supporting characters, the subplot that it's a part of, and then the purpose of it, both in storytelling and in Tyrone and Janet's character arcs, Vanessa's arc, so all that stuff about the scene. Talked about dynamic content. The nice thing here is that I can look at chapter 1 and I have places to describe what's happening in chapter 1, but then it automatically lists in order the scenes that are in chapter 1. I can look at the part and it will summarize for me. Here's all the content in summary form that's happening in this part. So when it's time to evaluate, are we telling our story in the right order, in the right sequence? When we realize, we talked about this, but we haven't introduced that yet. We need to introduce a new scene, or we need to move this in a different order, or we need to give them a break. We've had too much of this, so let's move this part of the story with this character's thing. Or they may be wondering, it's been too long since we've talked about so-and-so, they've forgotten. We can take that scene and move it around just by dragging the scenes around in the hierarchy. And now if I move things, then if I refresh this part page, it will show me the new order in the summary, so I can begin to evaluate how well the story is moving together.
Now, I see in those scenes there, they all have this string of numbers and letters beforehand.
Right. That's ask me about that again later when we're done, because that's a future thing that might not survive.
Okay.
But I want to show it. When we look at these character pages, these part pages, there's a lot of stuff in there. And we don't want it to take a really long time to create one of these every time. So one of the things that is particularly interesting about the way Confluence works is I can come in and look at, moving around with the small screen size, look at the templates. So I create a template for a scene, a character sheet, a book part, a chapter. Let's take that really complicated one, the character sheet. If I edit this, every time I create a new character, all of this stuff will be pre-populated with the hints of what do I put in all of these sections when we're editing. If I want to create a new character, let's actually go ahead and do that. I can come under characters, plus add a new page. We'll give it a name. This is a supporting character, director, and I could just click the character sheet, or if it's one of the others, go to all templates and click the character sheet. And now it pre-populates with all of this content, all of this framework. So I now have a new character sheet. I can then add a subplot that says relationship between Arnold and the director. And that now becomes a subplot. And that subplot includes a link to Arnold as one of the impacted characters, and a link to the director, and in the inciting incident, I haven't created a scene yet, have I?
No.
Okay, so I publish this. Then I can go into the manuscript, and I don't know where in, maybe part 1, but we'll create it in the parking lot. Creating a new page that is a scene. Part 1, chapter parking lot, scene 2, and yes, Arnold meets the director. And that is a scene. All of this information comes in. It's told from Arnold's point of view.
You've got a pop up there.
I've got a pop up there. It's hard from Arnold's point of view.
There we go.
This contributes to the relationship between Arnold and the director subplot.
And you could add the supporting character there as well if you wanted.
Yes, supporting character here. A link to the director. Publish that. And now, when I go back and look at the subplot,
which you can get to easily by clicking the link there.
Right. And refresh. Okay, well that was rather anticlimactic. Sometimes the index takes it a bit to collect, but I know that eventually we'll have a link here that says, hey, there's a scene that references subplot, but I don't yet see it here in where it belongs in the storytelling element. So I can see that I probably haven't thought through this as much as I would like to have thought through this. So this helps with the, if we're going to do our own development level editing back and forth between each other before we go hire a professional to do it, we can delay spending that money until we get it as good as we can. We can do our own development level editing using those tools to help us. You asked about those page numbers, those scene numbers. What I am hopeful to do with my software engineering background is that once we rearrange scenes in the chapters, I'm hopeful we can go to the manuscript page and there will be a button on that page that will automatically renumber them. That number right there, the way that it's structured, makes it so that on any page, when the scenes are put in alphabetical order, they will also be in order as they are in the book, so that when we look through that list, we will see things in the order that we're telling the story, so we can make sure that things make sense in the right orders. That's the purpose of that number. The goal is that we can reorder and then punch a button by writing a Confluence plugin to renumber all the scenes, and then that will make sure that all of the dynamic content that references those scenes gets updated with the new order. Another thing that I hope to be able to do is have another button where you press that button and it will export a Microsoft Word document with just the text of each scene formatted in a way that we could then take it, hand it off to an editor, take it, import it into Atticus if we're going to do self-publishing. So all of the work that we're doing to write the story in Confluence gets preserved for whatever tool we choose to use next.
Right. A whole lot easier to have a button that you can click to reorganize than move this scene around now, go rename everyone in between because it's in a different order now.
Right. And much better than trying to go into every document and, okay, I moved that scene. Where all have we been tracking? It's over here. I need to reorder here, reorder here, reorder here.
Right.
Things you could not do in a Word document or in a in Google Docs.
Drive,
This is why I was attracted to Confluence, even though it's not designed for authors or for book writers, why I was attracted to it as a tool that has the power to be tweaked into making it behave the way I want it to behave.
So this is our complicated system of organizing things, keeping...
It's a complicated system to make the use of it simple.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Hopefully it'll be really simple as we start to use it. But starting out, not so simple. This is the system we use. What do you use for keeping track of your story, of the characters, the subplots, the order of scenes? let us know in the comments what system you use, what you like and don't like about it, and we will see you in the next week, in the next video next week.